Hi guys, it's Christine. Welcome back to my channel. So I had a major snafu and I was in the middle of filming and my alarm went off on my phone to remind me about something and stopped the video, and I don't know video editing right now. So we're gonna have to work backwards from where I'm at and keep going. So I am working on some items for decorating, including ribbon for the 5 envelope journal. And I don't want to touch it right now because my fingers are quite obviously stained. So we were in the middle of staining ribbon for use in the journal. And so I'm going to finish this up and then we can go backwards and I'll tell you where that conversation started. So this is a mix of this Lindy's Starburst spray in Hydrangea Blue and this Tattered Angels spray in Blue Bubbles. I was hoping that the Blue Bubbles would be the right color, but unfortunately it's too silver. So I needed to add some of the Hydrangea Blue in there to try to get to the right color. And here's where I'm at with it. I don't mind having bits of white in here. I don't want to get it too dark, so I'm kind of staying away from that little pile right there. So I think this is good for now. And I'm going to wipe this up and kind of show you where, I'm going to actually start with this one, where this conversation started. Normally I would mop this up with paper, but honestly right now I just want to get it off here and kind of go backwards so that as you're watching this video, it makes sense. All right, this baby wipe is very linty. I got that blue spray, when I sprayed it got everywhere. No joke, everywhere. Clean this all up. So this is it. The video is really just a continuation of the 5 envelope journal. I have it right here next to me. I'm going to show you where we are currently with it. If you were following along, our last video was the construction of that, and then adding the papers to the surfaces of the journal and the cards. So that's where we are to date. All right, so here it is. So here's the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I do have the cards in here. So there's 3 cards that go into, we've cut the edge off of the envelope here, and we've worked up 3 cards with papers that slide in here. All right, so that's where we're at. And what we're going to do today is we're creating a couple different sets of colors because I don't know what direction I want to go in. So I don't know if I want to go into greens or blues for my cover. I don't know. I'm at that point where I'm just like, I am second guessing myself, which I'm sure people do all the time. So it's a normal thing. I've got lots of options. So I have 2 sheets of this Paperbilities parchment, quote, quote, parchment. It's not obviously not real parchment, but in parchment style. So I've got this blue that matches relatively well, but not exactly to the blue. I've also got this light green, which may not be showing up on the camera as light green. I'm looking at my mirroring on my iPad and it doesn't look like light green in the screen capture, but it is light green. Maybe if I hold it up to this, you can tell that the color difference, and it matches kind of to the light greens that are inside of the leaves and stuff. So I've got those 2 that go pretty well. And then I've got some, excuse me, some fabric that could work if I decided I want to fabric cover it. I love fabric covering journals. It tends to be my go-to on most journals. I don't know that it lends itself as well to this one. So I did pick out a couple. This one doesn't have butterflies, but it has the pinks and greens and roses. And this one has butterflies, but it doesn't have roses. And then this one has what I think are roses, not totally sure that they are, but I like the colors. It's obviously very different from what's on the inside though, which I'm not totally against, but I'm just trying to make some decisions. So I'm kind of leaning towards the paper. And because of that, I don't know what direction I'm going in. I'm, putting together 2 different sets, potentially 3 sets of ribbon that I can use. And maybe I'll use a combination of them. I'm not totally sure. So we've got the blue done here. And let's see how we're doing. It's a fairly solid match, maybe not quite as purpley blue. I'll know more when it dries. We might have to add in another layer to get the purpley blue, which we could do with the distress ink that we originally colored the cards, the envelopes with. So we could put some of this down and just spread it, spray it, and then ink that up. And then we've got, sorry, I have to keep wiping my hands because that's very wet and the ink is going to come out. We've got the light green, if I decide to go in this green direction, that I think is a pretty darn good match. So we've got those kind of ready, and now they just need to dry. So I'm going to move these out of the way just so they don't get additional colorings on them accidentally. All right, and we're going to move into dyeing some envelopes, some paper for envelopes. So I really love using tracing paper, or tracing paper. So I actually started this when I was pulling out this paper here that was in between sheets of acetate. And this is actually really tracing paper. So tracing paper actually is, you can see it when you lay it on top of this pink here. You can barely see through, and then you can definitely see through. So tracing paper tends to be a lot more transparent than this. I actually like this, and it's going to go to waste if I don't use it. So, excuse me. So I'm actually going to go with this, and we're going to color this up and then construct it into an envelope and then decorate it for use in the journal. So I'm going to use multiple colors in order to do that. So I'm going to start with the colors that we definitely have used, which is the Faded Jeans and the Shaded Lilac as places to start with this. And then we'll add in some other colors kind of as we go along. And I definitely like to take my time on making this. I don't want to go so fast that I just make a gigantic mess. But I like to spray it and then pick up the color on one side. So I'm not too worried about the other side because it's going to be an envelope. If this was going to be something to use as a sheet in the junk journal, then I might consider inking both sides. But in this particular case, I'm not going to worry about it too much. All right. So really the thing here is just layering and trying not to muddy the colors up too much. So it's going to be important to kind of dry in between. So I'm so sorry. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to speed things up on edit here. I don't really edit, but I'll try to see if I can at least speed things up through this process here. And in case I can't, would love if whoever's watching this, if you would comment on the colors for the outside of the cover for the journal. So if I use blue on the outside cover, then I'll probably use some of the green on the inside, just mainly because there's not enough. I only have 2 sheets of each. It's not enough to kind of use it consistently. And it's springy and it's pretty, so I think it's fine to kind of use multiple colors within it. And I'll also be using any scraps that came from the construction of the journal. So we've definitely got lots of options here. All right, that's just about dry. Move into some of the blue. And these are all Distress Oxides, which means when you spray them, you're going to see kind of the white start to pop through. So if you feel like it's too white, you can blend it a little bit. And if you want that to run a little bit, that's fine. And obviously our envelope's not going to be as large as what I'm dyeing here, but you can definitely use any offcuts as in you know, snippets or whatever else that you want to make, whether it's in this journal or a future journal. So I just dye the whole sheet and then cut it down to size to make my envelope. Now thankfully this is pretty thin paper, so it dries fairly fast. And I like the speckling that it is getting here as it's drying in pools. You can also use watercolors or whatever you have at your disposal. There's nothing that says you have to use inks. I just happen to have quite a bit of Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist, as well as Lindy's sprays, and so I like to try to use them if I can, along with my Distress inks and Distress oxides. All right. Let's do some green. So this was the green that I used to create my green ribbon. I pulled out several selections, but this seemed to do it. So I think this is just perfect to go and use on here as well. Using my finger is the best tool that I own. All right. This does tend to be somewhat of light colors, but I'm okay with that because this is background paper. This is not meant to be the end-all, be-all of your envelope. So I'm perfectly fine on it. Isn't that interesting there? That blue that kind of started mixing. This is why you need to dry it. It doesn't always guarantee these won't bleed together, but I try to get them into their separate spaces, so to speak. That's good. I've heard some people say that they actually use their baby wipes that have been inked up from soaking up extra ink. I will save this because I like the colors, and we'll see if that might be something in the future. And I just need this last one, a little cool to dry. It's a very pretty color, so I definitely want it to dry. All right, next color, we'll move into the pinks. So the pinks in the kit that I'm using, they really range from very light to quite bright in certain places. So I think I could pretty much go with any of these, but I may go with the brighter ones just because with this paper, they don't show up super dark. You can kind of see the purples here are not very dark. So I may have to just go back over that with maybe like a water pen and ink. That color in the bottle, where am I? Doesn't quite match the outside. It feels very orangey to me for whatever reason. I'll give this one a shot. It's got a lot of gold in it. The mica is gold. So I think that's why it looks very orangey to me. But we'll give this a shot. I'm actually not going to spray this because the last time I sprayed, it just went everywhere and it's just not worth doing. So we'll just put a little bit in. Very cherry. What color was that? This is, oh, it's cherry. Makes sense. Might pour a little bit of this in there. This is taffy. It's a very light, delicate color. I really like using this to color my ribbon. Just a tad. There we go. All right. That right in the middle. Totally fine with that spreading. That's not a problem. Try it. Go. Put on this edge here. All right. We'll try that up. That cherry definitely came out much darker than that taffy would have on its own. This will work just fine because we've got quite a few colors. So grabbing one here. Let's see from this image what I'm talking about. There's lots of pinks, different shades of pink. So this works just fine. I also have this Victorian velvet that would probably look really nice in between the colors, etc. So the pink's really pretty. It's got a lot of mica in it. It's really quite shimmery, obviously compared to just using the Distress Oxide. So I like that little contrast. I think we need some more shaded lilac in here. I'm gonna pick up the purpley blue. And then what I will do a lot of times is fill in gaps with like vintage photo or tea dye, just to kind of, you know, kind of bring some cohesion to it. This process can take a little bit of time, but what's great about it is it's your original art going into your journal. So I'm a huge fan of doing this. And Andrea from Artie Mays does a lot of custom dyeing of her pieces, so her envelopes, etc. I'm not by trade an artist, but I love the idea of having bits and pieces of my own art in my journals. All right. Get this kind of cleaned up. Spray that down a little bit. All right, so let's get some more of this lilac. Not nearly dark enough, but we will see if we can pick up some more. It's quite light. Might actually try it on the edge. That way, if it is not a good idea, I can not use that. It comes off very blue when you don't spray it down. I need just a little bit of spray. Okay. I'll try to get that in the spots I originally did it. Ah, that's better. That's a lot better. Yeah. That's nice. So here's where we're at so far. Have a couple obviously blank spots. I think we can rub over some tea dye, maybe might be the right color to kind of match. It's a little yellowy. The kit's a little yellowy, older age look. I don't necessarily want to go dark brown with vintage photo. So I'm thinking tea dye is a little orangey, but I think we can make it work. So I think that's what we'll try to do. Okay. Swipe that up. All right. Dry the rest of this up. I really do love the way the mica is coming through on that pink. Hopefully that shimmer's showing up. I kind of want a little bit more of it. So maybe we use a little bit of the silvery blue versus, that's quite bright, got a very green mica in there. The Lindy sprays have got a very, I call it like a peacock blue. This is very silvery, but it'll give the shimmer, I think, that maybe I'm looking for. So maybe we'll try that. Keep shaking it over here while I dry this off. All right. What's the worst that could happen? I ruin a piece of paper and I have to start over. So not a big deal, especially considering that this was in between sheets of acetate that I have. That's not gonna do it. That's not gonna do it. Let's put a little bit of, It's just too light. Use my finger. That'll work. All right, that'll just help give it a little bit of shimmer. Yeah. Perfect. That's picking up some nice shimmers. Now I'm kind of feeling like I want green shimmers. What do you think about this? Let's find out. We'll spray this green one down and just see if we just added a little bit to the top of the green. All right, so we've got this green one. I don't know that I necessarily want to dip it, but I might just put some down and rub it on. We'll try that. Why not? It's definitely a lot brighter than the pistachio, the cracked pistachio, but I don't know if that made it any better, but I do feel like we're missing green in the middle. So maybe what we'll do here is go ahead and put a little bit of cracked pistachio around. And I'm actually just going to get a water pen and use it this way instead. And that way I don't have to accidentally go over anything that I've already spent time on. Do that. Add a little bit up there. Darken that corner up. And now we have a lot less space that we need to worry about having to color in like that. Wet it down, blend it out. Now I like it better. Okay, same thing with right here. We have a lot less space we need to fill in gaps with tea dyeing or tea dye ink. All right, perfect. All right, so now we can grab the tea dye ink, which Here we go. Add it down below. I wasn't quite ready. Don't want to get too aggressive. I just want to kind of fill in any big gaps. Kind of bring it together. So it's just not a stark white. Okay, a little bit more over here. Okay, at this point, if you're happy with it, that's great. Otherwise, you can gesso parts. So like, obviously the pink is quite bright, so that kind of lends itself to maybe a little bit of a gesso layer. I also feel like the gesso kind of brings things together as well. So yes, gesso is white, but it's not like the stark white of the paper once it dries. So let's just maybe put a little bit of that on as well. So here's my gesso. It's quite a large bottle. I'll probably never get through it. Shake it up well, and hope I can open it. Maybe not. There we go. Put a little muscle into it. Okay, yeah, definitely goobers in there. All right, so there's a couple ways you can go about it. You can put your gesso on a surface and just kind of dab in. You can put it on wax paper, which is what Andrea from Artie Maze does, and then kind of dabs it on, kind of organic, trying to get it a little bit more organic when you're putting it in bright, you know, in lots of spots, because it's hard to do when you're painting it on. I think that's probably the best method, is to use the wax paper. But I don't think I have any with me right now. No, I don't. So we're just gonna go ahead and paint it on, and I'm just gonna make sure I'm not too heavy-handed with it. It's definitely easier to use it on the wax paper. I must have just used all of it up and didn't remember that I used it all up. So it's in my kitchen. I don't want to make you wait. All right, I feel like I got a pretty good amount to kind of take down a little bit of that brightness. I could just kind of dry brush the rest. This will be all folded up, so it doesn't really matter too much. It's just to get a little bit of background color to match the journal. All right, we'll let that dry and we will finish up the envelope in the next video, as well as take a look at the dried ribbon to see if that's a good match. And again, I would love to hear your thoughts on what paper selection should I go with. Should I go with the green on the outside cover? Should I go with the blue on the outside cover? Love to hear your thoughts, and look forward to chatting with you in the next video. Until then, bye-bye.